Hello, everybody. I'm Laurie White from the Greater Providence Chamber of Commerce. Welcome back. This is episode number 133 of Chamber TV. We are live on Facebook, we are live on YouTube, and we are live on Twitter. And we are back again with our good friend, Allan Langer. And we were just chatting off camera before we started. We've decided on the Chamber side that we are presenting Allan with our Chamber Backdrop of the Year award. So the best outfitted backdrop for Chamber TV. How are you doing today, Allan?
I am awesome, Laurie. How are you? Thanks for having me back.
Fantastic. So you are a veteran in this scene, and we also were just talking about how many podcasts you have in the can. You have you're approaching 100 podcasts in your company, and you're really quite adept at putting them out. So great.
Yeah, I just released number 50, and I have another 21 ready to go and recorded, and probably another 15 scheduled to be recorded. So yeah, I'm going to be hitting the 100 mark pretty soon.
Okay, so your company, 7 Secrets of Sales Training. You are a comprehensive sales training consulting firm, and you touch every point of the sales journey. And today we are going to tap your brain, and we are going to get some really important insights into a topic that many people kind of sometimes just like forget about it and think about it as an afterthought, when really it is the main event, and it should be the main event. And that is the science of pricing your product, pricing your service, and essentially recognizing that each product that you sell has a story attached to it. And you need to know what that story is. You need to know how much it cost you to produce. You need to know what the competition is selling that product for. And you need to know what your unique selling proposition is that's attached to that product, so that you can earn a premium if in fact that is relevant. So we're really excited, Allan, to get your insights. We haven't done a session on Chamber TV on pricing, so this is a first entree into this topic. So I am going to turn it over to you, and we're all excited about learning together. So go ahead, Allan.
Awesome. Well, thanks for the introduction. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to switch over to here, and let me know if you can see that, if that's okay. So this is part of, this became part of when I wrote my book, The 7 Secrets to Selling More by Selling Less. Pricing became one of the main secrets because, and you'll see in a second, it's something that most companies and solopreneurs, they don't forget about it, but they don't focus on it as what they would do normally. So, and then at the end, people always tell me, how do I get to the point when I get to pricing that I present it properly? Most reps struggle with the price presentation, and my training kind of gets you to the point where, as you're taking the customer through the journey, the pricing does not become a barrier or a shock. It becomes something that's almost expected and comfortable. So let's get into this a little bit. I call this "Don't Be Afraid of Pricing," but we're going to talk about today are some secrets that you can do literally this afternoon or tomorrow to change your pricing, and I guarantee you it will actually help you make more sales, and more importantly, make the customer feel comfortable about you and about your pricing. So just like I mentioned, most companies, they spend an enormous amount of money on marketing and on social media. They're always, a lot of companies hire people to do their social media, or they have VA doing it, and that costs money. SEO, that's a big thing. How do I optimize the search engine results for my company? So let's spend money on that. And then they spend money on copywriting and their website and everything. You get the point. Businesses spend money to get their name out, to get the customer to the point of wanting to purchase their stuff. But the majority of companies and even solopreneurs spend very little money or very little time thinking about getting their pricing right. So you can do all of this great stuff along the journey. Great website, great copywriting, great marketing, great SEO, great social media, great everything. And then if you get to a price that's just very arbitrary or not very comfortable, the customer still may not buy because it didn't close the loop of feeling good about your company. See, pricing is what you want your customer to look at and say, yes, this is what I want to do. You don't want to have them look at it and turn it into a transactional feeling. You want it to be a feeling that this is the company I want to do business with. And numbers psychologically have a lot to do with it. See, pricing is all psychological. That's where a lot of people miss and a lot of companies don't realize is, except for the retail industry, pricing has everything to do with how the brain works. So I want you to think about this next statement. So we don't necessarily buy the best products. We really don't. We buy the products that are priced the best. We can actually have an inferior product or something that's somewhat inferior, but if it's priced better and the journey for the customer got to the price and that finished that loop of feeling comfortable, they're going to buy that product over the product that doesn't feel comfortable, even if it may be a better product. It's the same thing with your marketing messaging. It's a very common theme that people don't necessarily buy the best products. They buy the products that are communicated the best. And communication ends with your pricing. So keep this in mind that this is how important pricing is. You could literally lose customers because your product is not only priced wrong, but the price is presented the wrong way. So why does this happen? Why is pricing so important? Well, it goes back to what I call our lizard brain. Robert Cialdini, the great psychologist who wrote many books about influence and persuasion, talks about 7 pillars of persuasion that are out there. And persuasion seems like a dirty word, or seems like a word that's sort of people, like, oh, I'm being manipulated. Persuasion has nothing to do with manipulation. It has to do with tapping into how the human brain works. What makes the human brain comfortable? What are certain things that can happen that make us as a human being feel comfortable? For example, why is it that we want to feel like we're part of a tribe? When we find out that, people in our town used this roofing company, well, we're going to feel more comfortable using that roofing company because that's social proof. That's not manipulation. That's just making the brain feel comfortable. Your brain will automatically feel comfortable. Your brain is tasked with 2 things: to survive and to thrive. And when you want to survive, you don't want to make a mistake. You don't want to choose the wrong company or choose the wrong person to do business with. And when you want to thrive, you want your life to be better. You want to procreate. You want to have good feelings in your life. And your brain is tasked to do that. So when it comes to numbers and even words, there are certain things that makes the brain feel better. And when you do it properly and you put it in your pricing, your brain is going to feel better, which means the customer is going to feel better about purchasing your product or your service. So it's all about what is the brain doing right now to make this number that I'm looking at feel like a good number or a better number as opposed to the other number that I just saw. People buy products when the pricing feels comfortable enough to make them want to buy those products. And you're going to see in the 6 tips that I'm about to show you why that is and what you can do. And again, these could be very, very subtle changes that really won't affect your bottom line, but it will affect your bottom line as far as, people say, oh, I got to lower my prices. It has nothing to do with that. It's just fixing your numbers properly and how you present them, where it is going to affect your bottom line in a positive way because more people will buy. So I did write a book, The 7 Secrets to Selling More by Selling Less, but I'm calling this presentation, The 7 Secrets to Selling More and the Psychology of Pricing. So let's get into these 6 tips or secrets that I call them that's going to help you as a business owner, as a solopreneur, whatever you do, take a look at these tips. And now some of them may not apply to your certain situation, but quite often, even if you think it doesn't, if you think about it, it might. But take these tips and really take a look at what you're doing from a pricing standpoint and see if you can start applying them. So the first one is very, very powerful. It's called the power of 3. The number 3 is everywhere. If you actually start trying to pay attention, 3 is in literature, the 3 Musketeers, the 3 blind mice, 3 is everywhere. And why is 3 everywhere? Because 3 is a very comfortable number for the brain. The brain likes 3. 3 is even used with photographers when they take a shot. There's 3 sections of the frame that they're going to position their subject in. Sometimes on the left, sometimes on the right, sometimes in the center. And a good photographer will know that section of 3 is very important for presenting the picture that they just took. So how do you put 3 in your pricing? Well, let's take a look at what a movie theater did. This is one of my favorite stories. It's sort of like an urban myth in pricing, but there was a movie theater and they sold popcorn like all movie theaters do. And they sold 2 sizes of popcorn. They sold the small and they sold the large. The small was $5 and the large was $8.50. 92% of the popcorn sales were small. And the manager was racking his brain like, why are we not selling more popcorn? Why are we not selling the large popcorns? One, the large popcorn is a better profit margin for the theater, but 2, it's a better deal for the customer because they get more popcorn when you looked at it by ounce. So it actually was a better deal, but the customer didn't know it was a better deal. So one of the associates said to him, why don't we add a third option? Why don't we add a medium? So you would automatically think, well, let's put it right in the middle. And what happens when you do that is people usually buy the middle. But let me show you a little strategy that's going to get people to purchase your best product. So now they had the small for $5, and you would think the medium would be $6.50 or $7, then the large would be $8.50. But they made the medium $7.50, and they kept the large at $8.50. When you look at this, what popcorn are you probably going to buy? 94% of the popcorn sales after they added the medium option went to large. And they positioned it because what they did with the medium was not there to purchase. The medium was there to make the large a no-brainer purchase. When you're looking at this, you're like, well, medium $7.50, but wow, only for $1 more, I can get the large popcorn. What a great deal. Now the customer feels excited about buying the large popcorn. They feel like they got a great deal. So they're feeling good as your customer. You're feeling good because now you hit the better profit margin and everybody wins. If you made the medium $6 or $6.50, you'd probably have a split between medium and small sales and a few larges. But when you add or you introduce that third option, the biggest mistakes companies make is making the third option or the middle option the best option. And what happens psychologically when you do that is the customer now feels like they bought the middle option. Like, let's say you had bronze, silver, and gold as your packages, and you made, $100, $200, $300. So the customer is like, well, I don't want to buy the lower package. I really can't afford the other package. Let me just settle for the middle. So now you have a customer who's settling for your product. They're not excited about it because they're like, I'm average. This is what I'm going to pick. I can do the middle one. Whereas if you had $100, $250, and $300, wow, just for another $50, I can get their best package. I'm excited with this company. So see what happened right there? Psychologically, they went from, I'll pick the middle package because, that's what I can afford, to, wow, for just a little more, I can get their best package. You have an excited customer and you have the better profit margin for the company. A win-win. So try this with your pricing, but don't make the mistake of putting the middle one right in the middle. get it closer to your best package, and make your best package the no-brainer for the customer to purchase. All right, number 2 has to piggyback off of this, but when I call it, it's called layering your pricing. So when you do your packages, most people, most websites, most presentations go from left to right. They will show, and I'm going to show, I did this, I did some training with martial arts company, and this is what their pricing sheet looked like. So they made 2 mistakes here. One, they had their best option on the left. If you're going to do it this way, if you're going to go, left to right, always make the right, just like I showed you with the popcorn, make the right the best deal for the customer, your top product. Because your brain, you read left to right, your brain's going to stop on the right. The way they had this position, the brain is stopping on the right, which is their lower product. But here's what I really would like you to do. If you have to do it that way, that's fine. That will work just fine. But if you can actually do it this way, where you're going from top to bottom, this is going to do 2 things. It's going to set up the middle option, just like you have it set up, to make the best option the better buy, or the buy that feels the best. But your brain, when you actually read from top to bottom, you start, the brain starts thinking that the lower they go, the less the product is worth. So when you're on the black belt now, 1 payment of $49.97. Now I go down the next step. Okay, the red belt is 1 payment of $45.79. Now I'm feeling, psychologically, I don't even know it, I'm feeling like this product is less of a product. Then I get to the 3rd one, the brown belt, and you're almost like, I'm not even considering that for my kid. So then you look at the middle one and the top one, you go, wow, just for another $380, I can get their best package. So you not only set it up properly that way, but now the brain, when you're working your way down the page, the products feel less and less, they don't just feel as good as that top product at the top of the page. So that's what we did with them. And it just, when they sit there and they present this page to the customer, it's easy to read, and it's incredibly rare for anyone to choose anything besides the top product. So work in 3 and then try to layer it from top to bottom. Again, if you have to do left to right, it's okay, but just know that top to bottom has a little more psychological advantage because the customer feels like the lower products are less valuable. All right, number 3, another favorite of mine, building the price. Now, again, this may not apply to you if you're like a coach and you don't really have, you have 1 package. This is not really going to apply to you. But if you have a product, especially if it's a complicated product or there's a lot of things in the product that need to be added to get to the price, this is going to be incredibly powerful for you. What this means is you want the customer to own their price. You want them to build it. Biggest mistakes customers make, or sales reps, when they're in a situation, let's go to I came from the in-home sales industry. I sold Anderson windows for many, many years. And we would sit in the house. You're trained to sit in the house, measure the windows, do the product demonstration, blah, 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 do all that stuff. And then when everything is finished, you turn around the computer and the customer's shocked at the price. No matter what the price was, they're always shocked because they're never expecting it. Well, why is that? It's because the customer didn't have anything to do with the price. The rep did. So how do you fix that? You turn it into the customer's responsibility to build their price. So when you let the prospect build the price, they're much more apt to purchase it. We see this now almost everywhere when it comes to buying a car. People hate going to car dealerships. I've never met 1 person in my life who said, I really enjoy going to a car dealership. I'm going to go with my wife today. We're going to have a good time. Never happens. Why? Because the sales process in car dealerships has been broken for years. People hate going. So what happened? The smart dealerships, the smart companies started letting people build their car online. And if you can see here, it says build the price, build the price. And as you go through the website, as you build the price, you change the color, you change the wheels, you change manual to automatic, all of these things, you'll see the price go up and down. And every time you click that mouse or touch your screen, you're owning more of that car. Now what happens is people build their car. I call it, and they print it out, and I call it informational ammunition. Now they go to the car dealership and said, here's the car I want. No sales pitch. I don't want anybody talking to me. This is what I want. This is how much it should be. They own it. They're walking in wanting to buy that car. I mean, how great is that? Back in my selling days, we had this amazing software program for entry doors. It was on an iPad. And basically the customer would I would flip the iPad around and I would kind of just facilitate it. I'm like, here, pick your window, pick your door style, pick your color, pick your hardware, pick your grids, pick your hinges. How do you want it to open? And they're just doing this the whole time. And at the bottom left of that screen, the price went up and down. So they would start saying, I really want this fancy glass. And then they would click on the fancy glass and it would be $3,000 more. Like, well, I guess I'm not getting fancy glass. Let me choose this glass. And then when they got to the end, that was the price. That was the door that they built. I didn't flip it around and show them that I built it. Even if they're telling me what they want, they're still building it. It's so much more important for them to be actually owning it. There was a study done about designing a sweatshirt, I think it was, and they had people. This is really fascinating. So they had students at a university click on the sweatshirt, red, large, small, blah blah blah. You even kind of do it in retail, but then they also had other ones touch the screen, and the group that touched the screen spent an average of 31% more because they were owning the product more than they were with the mouse. The mouse helped, but when you actually have people point to things, touch things, feel things, and build their own price, you literally will just sell more product. So if you can do this, if you can incorporate this in some way in what you sell, it literally will blow people away. Now, pricing number 4. Here's where you can actually incorporate the building the price to giving the customer a discount after it's built. And this is called bundle pricing. You kind of see this all the time in the retail industry, and you see it online, but not as much as you should actually. So let's say you offer a bunch of different services and you offer them a la carte. If you take the services that they picked and they put them in a bundle and you make it less money, they're more apt to buy all of the services rather than just a few. So packages are better than individual. So selling a set of goods or services at a lower price than a customer would pay if they bought the items separately. So that's what bundle pricing actually is defined as. So an example is, let's say you're a web designer, you're a tech company, and here's your a la carte options over here. So, okay, I'm going to do web design. I want to do the SEO. I want to add analytics. I'm going to add a chat box to my website. I'm going to add a video feature. You add all those up, you get to $99.69. So the customer's like, oh, you know what? I'm just going to do the web design, the chat box, and the analytics. That's all I'm going to do, because now they're building their price, but they may not buy as much as you want. Well, then you can say, well, you know what? I can bundle all this together. The better deal is to actually purchase all 5. I'll give you all 5 for $1,000 less if you do all 5 of them. So now, again, you're putting the customer in a better position because now they feel great and comfortable. I'm getting a really good deal. They kind of built the price already because they showed you what they wanted. Now you can bundle it and say, listen, why don't we just add this one? You kind of need it. I think you should really have it. If you add this, I'll bundle everything together and I'll give you a nice package deal. And there you go. Bundle option $89.97 rather than $99.69. So again, you may not be able to do this, but if you can, really try it, because it's very powerful. Again, going back to what I said at the beginning, the goal here is for the customer to feel great about your company because the price made them feel like they got a really, really good deal. They got a really good product and service, and they're excited about it because of the price. Really, because of the price. All right, number 5. Call this comparison pricing. The technical term is called anchoring. And what this is, and what this means, is nothing is cheap or expensive on its own. Okay? Has to be compared to something. When I was selling windows, or even when I'm training, and you would say to someone, wow, that window is $1,500. They would go, whoa, that's expensive. Well, expensive compared to what? Is it just expensive because it's $1,500? What if I said the actual average window was $4,000? Now is it expensive? So never position your pricing on an island in a conversation. If you're able to compare it to other things, you're going to be much better off. I also call this, and in the sales world, it's called price conditioning. What you're doing is you are telling the customer, you're preparing the customer psychologically for what the price is going to be. So for example, let's say you sell copy machines and the average copy machine is $5,000. That's the average sale. If you just said to someone, copy machine's $5,000, whoa, 100% of the time, that's expensive. It's almost a knee-jerk reaction. But if during somewhere in the conversation you say, you know, in the market in copy machines right now, you can find copy machines for about $3,000. You can find copy machines for about $7,500, $8,000. You're anchoring that range now. So the customer is thinking, okay, $3,000 to $8,000. Okay, that's where I'm going to be. He mentioned that. And then you kind of just move on. But psychologically, you anchored that pricing, that pricing range in their brain. Then when you get to $5,000, it's no longer a surprise. It's no longer, whoa, that's expensive. It's, okay, that's what I was expecting. You can also do it a different way. Back to my window days, I would start many conversations to say, you know, do you think a window is going to be more than $3,000 or less than $3,000? Knowing the average of a window is about $1,600. All the time, the customer would say, well, I hope it's less than $3,000. And we would laugh and I would move on. But the $3,000 is now stuck in their brain and they're kind of worried, wow, is a window really going to be $3,000? And then you start building your value. You start talking about why everything is great and how all the things you would talk about. And then you get to the price and the window is $1,600. It's no longer, oh my God, that's expensive. It's like, okay, yeah, that's kind of where I would always get, yeah, that's kind of where I was expecting it. Where they really had no idea what I did, nor were they expecting that price, because I compared it to something else. I anchored it with another number in their brain. This next slide is something that'll show you what this means. It's kind of a funny slide, but basically, how do you sell a $2,500 watch? Like, whoa, who's going to spend $2,500 on a watch? You know how you do it? You put it next to a $10,000 watch. What just happened right there? You saw the $2,500 watch and you went, whoa, that's expensive. But then the $10,000 watch came up and the $2,500 doesn't look so expensive now, does it? That just happened to you psychologically in a second. So if you do this strategically, you can see how powerful it could be with one of your customers or your prospects. And the final pricing secret is what everybody knows, but I see companies more afraid to use it than not. Ending your pricing in a 7 or a 9. The retail industry are the kings of this. I think the last study I read is 90-something% of retail numbers of items you see in the store end in a 7 or a 9. And that's not by accident. It actually makes the brain, the number 7 or the number 9 makes the brain feel better. So if you can, and I'm even talking about service people, like if you're a coach and you say my hourly rate is $250, make your hourly rate $249. It will have an effect. it won't have as much effect, and I'll get to this in a second, on changing that left number. But anytime you can end anything you do, instead of having a website proposal for 10,000, you make it 99.97. It looks less expensive for the same value. Why do you think that 99 cents looks and feels better than $1? It's only a penny. And it's not because, oh, it's 99 cents, I'm going to buy it because it's cheaper. Psychologically, and there's been a lot of studies done on this, the 9 feels better to the brain. $6.99 a pound for nectarines is better than $7. If there were nectarines in 2 buckets, one said $6.99 a pound, the other one said $7 a pound, what nectarines are you buying? It's only a penny. You're buying the $6.99 almost 100% of the time. And it's not you thinking to yourself, well, these are less expensive, I'm going to get these. It feels better. It feels like these are the nectarines I need to buy. And you don't really know why they feel that way. And it's because the 9 is making your brain feel better. They actually, this is still funny, they're still wondering why. Like, they're trying to figure out why the feeling of comfort, they've tested brains with all the electrodes and everything, why the numbers 9 and 7 make the brain relax and feel comfortable more than and like it said, if it said, you know, $6.90, now you start thinking about it as a transaction, like, well, this is 10 cents cheaper, but it doesn't have the same brain effect. The 9 and the 7 actually have a brain effect that makes the brain feel good. And they're still trying to figure out why. And the final thing is, when you end in a 9 or a 7, that is powerful enough. But if you can actually affect the left digit and then add the 9 and the 7, then you'll have a home run. So when you can, if you can reduce that left digit by 1, so let's say your coaching package was $200 and you made it $199, you just reduced that number 2 to a number 1. Now it's like, bang, it's only $1 less. Now I feel great. So pricing really becomes most effective when that left digit can go down by 1. Like if you see what I typed here, a 1 cent difference between 380 and 379 doesn't matter as much. It will, because the 9 will make the brain feel better. But the 1 cent difference between $3 and $2.99 is enormous. You'll never see an online course for $200 ever. You'll see it for $197, $199. And again, that's not by accident. It's because it makes you feel better, makes you feel like you got a great deal. And as long as the value is there, you're going to feel great as a customer purchasing that product. So if you can position your product, your service from that, you know, $300 to the $299 or $500 to $499 or $497, you're going to sell more. Even then you get into the comparison. Let's say they're looking at 3 different web companies and you all come in at $10,000. Well, they're 10,000. Company B is 10,000. You're 99.97. Probably going to buy you. They're probably going to choose you because, not that you're $3 cheaper, because the value was there that you built and the number felt better psychologically to the customer. So anything else that you do in your business, you do everything so well. You line everything up. You spend money on everything. Pricing is as important as all of those other things that you spend money on. Don't make pricing an afterthought. Don't sit there and just put it into an algorithm, you know, software program or Excel spreadsheet and say, okay, this is how much it costs us. This is our overhead. This is our, you know, our company cost for health insurance, blah, blah, blah. I have to sell this product at $714.61 to have a 16% profit margin. That number will mean nothing to the customer. Once you establish how good you are and the customer wants to do business with you, that final price has to solidify the deal. And $714.61 is not going to give them a warm and fuzzy. But $6.99 will. See the difference? So pricing is super important. We're going to open it up to some questions now. It's time to get your pricing right. And I want to thank everyone for joining. I'm going to head back over to the stage if I can. I'll stop sharing my screen. Okay, good. Am I back on?
You are.
Awesome.
That was fantastic.
Thank you.
So let me ask you about 1995. I see a lot of pricing, with that as, 5 as the end digit. What do you think of that one?
It's better than $20, but again, all the studies they've done on the brain, the 5 that doesn't have an effect. Doesn't light up that side of the brain when the person sees a 7 or a 9.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
So 1997, like if you put 1995 and 1997, chances are the customers will actually purchase the 1997. In fact, here's a great study. They did a study. I have this in my book. They put a woman's blouse for sale, same exact blouse in one of those stores, Target or Home Goods, and they listed one blouse for $34, one blouse for $39, and one blouse for $40. So you would automatically think, well, the $34 blouse, $5 less, everyone's going to buy that. 90% of the sales were the $39 blouse. And that just shows you psychologically, people saw the $39. They said, this is the best deal. I'm going to get this.
Mm-hmm. So 9 is better than 7, which is better than 5.
Well, 9 or 7 is they're almost equal. They don't really attribute one better than the other, but in that particular study, they used 39 as opposed to 40, as opposed to 34. Like you would think $34, I'm going to buy this one. It's $5 less. But the brain thinks that $34 blouse is less valuable than the $39 blouse.
Where I see a lot of this, I bet there's a lot of psychology in the pricing of a bottle of wine at a restaurant. Like you don't want to look like cheap. You don't want to go for the least expensive bottle, but you don't want to go to the super high end. So you sort of like, you don't want to be embarrassed to think that you don't have good taste in wine. So I imagine the science of pricing wine in a restaurant is a very interesting proposition.
It would be interesting to talk to restaurant owners on that, because when you look at things, it's cool that you brought up restaurants, because you'll notice when a owner of a restaurant or the marketing company that you're dealing with comes up with the pricing, you'll notice restaurants don't have cents of attaches. Your meal is not $19.50. It's usually $19, because the less, that's another pricing psychology area where the less amount of digits you have, the less the customer feels, or the less expensive they feel that the deal is. So that's why restaurants don't have it in cents. But the smart restaurants will have all their meals ending in a 9 or a 7, including their wines. Whether they set them up, I've never seen them set it up in 3 or things like that. But you're right. Psychologically, you don't want to buy the cheap one, but you don't want to buy the expensive one, so that you're going to go in the middle. But there's probably ways that they can do it better.
Mm-hmm. And I've also seen high-end restaurants, instead of using the digits, actually write it out, like
Yep.
dollars, written out. Probably seems less scary to the brain, right?
Again, there's so many studies on pricing. I could have done 20 tips. So I chose those 6. But when people write out pricing, you're supposed to use the least amount of syllables as possible. So 795 is 5 syllables. 614 is 3 syllables. So, or 7, if you're doing it, the less amount of syllables you have, the better for the brain. But you don't really see that too often to worry about it.
But don't people know that they're being played psychologically? Like, aren't people onto this and saying, they're just trying to force me here to the bundle or whatever? What does the brain do to counteract what the brain is doing naturally?
It depends on if you're talking to a person. You obviously want, you don't want to make them feel like they're being manipulated. It has to be a natural conversation. But let's just go to online first. Let's just take the human person out of it, and you go online. You're pretty much, you never feel manipulated when you're online and you seem like that pricing is giving you a good deal. So when you see, like, the mistakes I see online is when a company offers, you'll see the intro package, which is free. Then you'll see the middle package, which is $19 a month, and then you'll see the gold package, which is $29 a month. You're going to choose that as the consumer, but it's usually always set up for you to pick the middle one, and that's where they make the mistake, because if they make the middle one closer to their best package, it's going to make that a no-brainer, and I'm going to choose the best package, and I'm going to feel better because I'm getting the best package at what I perceive as a really good price. So when the brain is comfortable by looking at numbers, you're not going to feel manipulated. You're going to feel the opposite, actually. If you present it in a way where like, hey, I'm going to give you a good deal, I'll take $3 off, then you kind of fall into the typical sales rep category. But if you present it in a way where, hey, this is the best package, just for an additional $100 here, you're going to get our best package, I would do that. And and I've done that with many companies. We've changed their pricing completely. I did a lead gen company for LinkedIn, and the majority of their packages were always their silver package. They always sold their silver. And now almost 100% of what they sell is their gold, because it was positioned better that way from a pricing standpoint.
That's interesting. And let me ask you about the distinction between a service that could come forth with any, varying degrees of expertise. So you threw out the website, social media, the digital marketing company. So not all digital marketing companies are alike. You could have a really terrible one and a really super one.
Mm-hmm.
So you can justify your pricing, by the talent that you have. So what do you do conversely if you are selling a commodity, if you're selling, a pen or something, a copy machine? You mentioned copy machine. Something that is easily, you can easily research on the internet. You can Google and say, what is this pen, this, B1322? What's the cheapest price out there for this B1322? What do you do then?
Well, that goes to the sales conversation. So again, pricing on an island by itself is not going to sell your product. You obviously have to get to the point. If you're in and I'm assuming for the basis of this web stream here, that we're talking about people who are having conversations or having sales conversations or sales calls with customers. So if you sell a something that's like a commodity, like a copy machine, or like, people are just looking for the best price, during the conversation, you obviously have to build the value. And there are certain ways to do that. I have the 7 secrets to do that. You have to establish that along the way, but some of them are, attaching using the context of a story for that pen. So if your pen is a blue pen and you sell blue, red, and green, and that's it's transactional. But if your pen was used to sign a peace treaty over in the Gulf then that pen has a story to it. So that pen becomes more valuable. So you have to, to get to the value of whatever you're selling, that takes place during the conversation. And again, there's a lot of different ways to do that. But when you get to the point of building the value and this pen is worth more than this pen, the pricing still has to be in line. So if you're thinking as a customer, wow, this really is a good pen, but then it's $20, you're like, okay, it's $20. If it's $19.99, now it just goes in line with all the value you've got, and now the price feels good. So the price has to feel good at the end to be in congruence with what you just said. So hopefully that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Even high-end products, should they end in a 99 or a 97? Like if you were going to buy a ring at Cartier as an example.
Absolutely. I mean, when you look at the high-end cars, the Mercedes, the Cadillacs, all the advertised pricing will end in a 9 or a 7. Even the smart realtors, you're never gonna, why would you list a house at $500,000 when you can list it at $499? That's not a mistake. That is psychologically, if you're looking at houses and you have 2 identical houses and one is 500,000 and one is 499, you are going to see the 499 house, just automatically.
So what about the sets? We were talking about 1995, 1997, 1999. when you're selling a high-end product, should you add the cents in or have 0, 0? Like,
Yeah, I wouldn't even, you know, there's studies that say take out the decimal, don't even have the cents. Don't even put the 0, 0 if it's not there, just leave it, you know, 4.99, comma 0, 0, 0, and that's it. Same with the car. You know, you won't see a car with you know, 69,997 and 14 cents. You'll never see that. You'll always see it end in a whole number. So yeah, I definitely would not. When you, I don't really run into any situations where you ever need to add the cents to it. I would keep that out.
Interesting. So so if you're selling you know, a commodity product, what else can you do to think about how to price it? Like, should you always be Googling the product and seeing what comes up on the internet, or should that not really weigh into how you're going to price it?
Well,
how you're going to present it?
Yeah, and here's where things get a little dicey or difficult is if you're working for a company, most companies will get this wrong, and they're just going to put the pricing into a computer software program, and it's going to come out and say, this is how much it is. You know, window companies that I worked for did this. You know, it's just like you put everything in, this is what they want, and boom, 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 it figures out the profit margin, it figures out the you know, 2.3 markup, blah, 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 and here's the price. If you can actually have some leeway on that, so let's say the price comes out at, you know, let's go back to the copy machine, and the price comes, actually, let's use something else. Let's say you're selling roofs, and, you know, I train roofing companies, instead of just saying, here's your roof, here's 3 different options for your roof. So you give the, you know, the 10-year shingle, the 20-year shingle, and the 50-year shingle. Then you make the 20-year shingle close in price to the 50-year shingle. This way, the 50-year shingle becomes a no-brainer. Then you end that price in a 9 or a 7. Now it feels better comfortably to the brain. But what you're doing is you're using quite a few different pricing techniques here to make the customer feel better, as opposed to the other realtor, your competitor, the other roofer, which is your competitor coming in and showing his roof is $10,000. Your roof is $99.97, and you had all the other stuff as options. Now the customer feels like they had options. They purchased it. Once you give the customer options, they're going to own the price more. You can't just show one price. So back to your question, if you have an ability to do that, if your copy machine or your roof comes out at $10,000, and you can say, we can give you a less copy machine for this and a better copy machine for this, you give them the choice, then you make that, you know, you adjust that middle number to closer to the higher number. If you're able to do that, do it, because you'll sell more. Again, you're going to be different than everyone else presenting the single price that ends in the 14 cents. You're gonna be different than the competition, and it's always good to research, obviously, what you're selling and see what everyone else is selling it for. But normally, if you're in a one-on-one situation, that price is going to come up after after you help the customer build it.
Mm-hmm. We are talking with Allan Langer. We are talking about the science of pricing, or probably more appropriately, I would say the psychology of pricing. So the psychology and the science of pricing all together. It's a great conversation, one that everyone should be paying attention to, because if you're in business, you're pricing your product. The two go hand in hand, and it's not an afterthought, as Allan was saying. This is episode number 133 of Chamber TV. We are live on Facebook, we are live on Twitter, and we are live on YouTube. And we want you to engage with us and put your questions in the chat, and we'll pose them to Allan, who is a subject matter expert on this. So Allan, tell us a little bit about your company. If people are listening and they're into what you're talking about right now, what else do you do? Tell us about your book.
So, let's see if I can reach my book over here. Should have had it ready. So this is the book, 7 Secrets to Selling More by Selling Less. It was an Amazon bestseller. And
what was it?
I'm sorry, the 7 Secrets to Selling More by Selling Less. It's on Amazon. You can look it up by.
I said, what does it sell for? What did you price it at?
Oh, it's $14.99. I thought you said you didn't see it. So yeah, it's $14.99 on Amazon. It's also, you know, Audible and Kindle also has it. But my whole concept, just like the pricing I spoke about, sales is also psychological. I deal with the psychology of sales, and I actually train not to do a sales pitch. I train to really understand what the human being in front of you is thinking about, with body language, with how you use your words, how you tell stories, and really getting to the point where that conversation, that god awful sales conversation, that one, you don't want to have as the owner of the company, and two, the person you're talking to doesn't want to have because they don't want to be sold. So how do you get rid of that? And that's what I train, is like, the conversation needs to be natural, and the end of the conversation, the byproduct, is a sale, because everything feels comfortable. And that's where pricing comes in at the end of it. So you kind of want to button it all together, but there's 7 specific things that you can use to make the sales conversation much more comfortable for you and for your prospect. And that's pretty much what I train. I also train, I do some LinkedIn things. I'll help you with the clarity on your LinkedIn profile and how to get business on LinkedIn as well.
Mm-hmm. So I imagine naming the book or your company, The 7 Secrets of Sales Training, was no accident either.
No, it was not. It was not. 7. It was interesting. Before I even knew all of this stuff, before I was doing my research and, you know, the power of pricing, I had 10 secrets, and realized that 3 of them can be consolidated, and that the number 7 is just, you'll notice the smart marketed books, if they have that kind of title, you'll see they're 7 or they're 9. You'll see 10. Some, you know, top 10 is always a big thing, but usually that odd number, when it's a list, 7 is a really good place to start.
What about, you know, thinking about margin versus markup? The difference, is there a business imperative to choose one over the other, or is it, again, you know, back to the psychology of it?
Well, you want to get to your profit margin first. You want to say, okay, I need to be I need to be at this number to make a profit. So let's say that number, let's say your widget is, you know, this mouse here is it cost me $2 to buy it, but to make money after all the overhead is paid, I need to sell it for 7. So now you know you have to mark it up by $5, but you're not going to sell it for 7. You're going to sell it for $6.99. So once you establish what your markup is, what you establish where your comfortable profit margin is, it comes in line with the value that you bring and that you tell your prospect about. Don't just say $7. That's where people like, okay, I need to be at 7, and they forget about it, and they just list it at $7.21. Now you got to think, okay, what's the price now that's going to make the customer not only buy it, but feel good about buying it? So then instead of $7, you make it $6.99.
How do you instruct people to determine what it is that they need to get for their profit margin, and how to extrapolate, you know, the total overhead to something discrete like?
Oh, that's a totally different conversation. That is, you know, that's up to the business owner what they want their profit margin to be. I have my own opinions on where you should be. I love Mike Malkowitz's book, Profit First, where you pay yourself first rather than last. There's a lot of different concepts, but, you know, the one thing I will say to that is you own your company. You deserve to make money. Never lower your pricing because people want you to. Stick to your pricing. Be confident in your pricing. You know, if your coaching is $997 and someone says I can't afford it, can you do it for $700? Never go down. Sorry, I'd like to do that. Once you start lowering your price, you start lowering your value. And once you start lowering your value, that's not a good way to start a relationship. So be very, very confident in your pricing when you present it. Like, this is really, you're getting me, you're getting this, and this is what I charge, and it's gonna be worth every penny.
Allan, we had a technical issue with Lori, so we lost her from our feed. But if there is anything you would like to leave our audience with as we round out the top of the hour, please feel free to do that.
Great. Well, this was a lot of fun. I love being on this TV with you guys. You guys have an excellent show. If anyone wants to reach out to me, it's Allan at allanger.com, just like you see there, or allanger.com is my website. And from there, you can send me a message. Would love to chat with you if anybody needs help with pricing or even sales training for their teams or individually. Would love to help you guys. And we're back in doing things in face-to-face and in person, so I'm excited about it. So would love to chat with anyone who would like to do that. Thanks for having me on again. Oh, there she is.
I was going through the chat, Allan, and I accidentally logged myself off.
Oh, okay.
But I do want to, so we do have a few more minutes if you can stay for another.
Sure.
Another view. So sorry, everybody. Again, I was looking through the chat, and for some reason, I just made a mistake. But anyway, just a couple of comments that we're hearing. Susan says, Allan is throwing down some amazing tips. I'm learning so much. John Paglarini, JR, great friend of the chamber. Is there any chance of sharing Allan's slides for future reference? And we have said, yes, absolutely. We will put those out. Good suggestion. Very helpful, he says. He also notes that Laurie never drinks or buys cheap wine. So I don't know about that. And we have another one from Sirkan. He says, thank you, Allan. Great info, especially the bundle pricing options and giving the power to the customer. A few questions from the perspective of sponsorship pricing for organizations. Okay, so here's a specific question. Would you recommend putting your pricing options a la carte or bundle on your website, or would you suggest keeping them separate for individual meetings? And then how do you value your sponsorship?
So I am a big proponent of putting your pricing on your website, or giving someone at least a range to contact you to pique their interest. Because what you want to do there is is as long as the website is done properly, where the value is there, you kind of want to pre-qualify your proper customers. So and as far as bundling it, it's tough to, again, I've seen websites do it, but it's got to be done in a way where it's easy to read. So you can show these are the a la carte things you can purchase. Like let's look at a golf outing, for example. It's really a good example of this. So you can put the golf outing where individual golfer is $150, a tee sign is this, a green sign is this, and putting your ad in the program, the dinner program is this, a la carte, and you have all those prices. But if you buy all that together, you're going to get it for $997. So that's a way to do it where you can have the a la carte shown and they can add it up. Like if they're clicking on it, it'll add up on the website, or they can do it in their brain. But then when they go to the bundle, it just feels better. It's like, oh, I'm getting all this stuff and I'm getting it for a less price rather than me just picking a couple of things out. So I would say absolutely, if it's listed properly, it's clear, it's not confusing, do it on your website, because you'll qualify people who are really interested. You'll disqualify people who can't afford it. And then have the conversation later to really solidify everything. Hopefully that answers your question.
Great answer. Diane says, great information. Thank you so much, Allan. One other question for you, Allan, from just a scientific perspective. How often should you be updating your prices based on last received purchase order, as an example?
How often should you update? I didn't hear the end there.
How often should you be updating your pricing as you go along? Is the science of like updating it every month? Is that too much? We see so many supplies and commodity prices and supply chain issues now. If understanding, of course, that you need to maintain your margin, but does changing your pricing too frequently send off a bad message?
Not if it's expected in the industry. If you have an industry, let's say, construction industry where pricing for wood goes up every week or changes every week, then, or, commodity pricing, gasoline, things like that, if the industry expects that prices to fluctuate, then no. But again, you need to be in charge of what it actually is, how it ends, and how it appears to the customer. If you're a solopreneur, you're a coach or whatever, and you have packages, and really then it'll just come down to your profit margin. Do you feel like you added more overhead? Then you got to change your pricing. But if you didn't, I would keep your pricing as consistent as you can. It really, you're not going to get people, like if you're in a coaching profession, people aren't going to be checking your pricing every month to see if it moves. So I really wouldn't worry about that too much. But if you're in a commodity area, I think it's going to be expected. So just make sure when it goes up or down, you list it properly on the back end.
Mm-hmm. Great advice. So do you cover your pricing methodologies and psychology in your book?
Yeah, I have a whole chapter on pricing. It's called My Advice, Show the Price, because the concept of the chapter is reps and owners wait to the end to show the price. They just wait to the very end, and then everyone's always shocked at the price. Whereas if you have people, like I said in the presentation, build the price, anchor the price, talk about the price, have them expect what it's going to be, then you build the value at the end. They're not going to be surprised. They're hopefully going to say, wow, exactly what I was expecting. Where do I sign?
Does that tip the hand to your competitors? Like, oh, XYZ company they're our competitor. They're selling,
Nope. Never mention a competitor. Always mention the industry. The industry average is usually this for this level. The industry average is this. I've seen this. You never say, oh, Ford is selling their cars for this, where Toyota is selling for this. But it makes you come across as petty, because you're even if you're not bashing your competitor, psychologically the customer thinks, oh, he's talking about his competitor. He's a typical salesperson. So never mention your competitors. There's no need to do that.
Mm-hmm. And if you put your pricing out on the website, does that tip your hand to your competitors that they might want to undercut you, or it might tempt them to come in with a lower price that ends with a 9 or a 7?
I'm always a proponent of don't be afraid of your price, and because if they want to undercut you, that means that they're probably not worth doing business with. And if the customer is not worried about value and they only worry about price, that's a customer you don't want to do business with either. So again, you are in charge of who you do business with, and there are a lot of customers you don't want, and that's a thing that many companies need to learn, because quite often 80% of your time are spent with your customers that have the smallest amount of products or packages with you. Mm-hmm. Don't hire every customer you see. You just don't do it, because you'll spend your time banging your head against the wall. Get yourself good customers, and a good customer is not the customer that's going to go to someone else for $3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very true. All right, so show us your book again before we head out.
There it is.
For everybody,
it's on Amazon. Just type in my name, or just type in the 7 Secrets to Selling More on Amazon. It'll come right up. And again, thanks for putting my website and stuff down below. That's awesome. Would love to talk to anyone. Reach out to me on LinkedIn as well. I'm on LinkedIn pretty much 40 hours a day, so I'm always there and love to talk to new people.
Okay, very good. Thanks everybody for tuning in. This has been phenomenal. Lots of good information. Again, if you have any subjects you'd like us to present, folks out there that are listening, let us know. And Allan, we want to have you back again. So think about what your next
topic. I would love to. You guys are great.
Okay. Thanks, Allan. Take care, everybody.
Thanks,
Bye.
Laurie. Take care, everybody. Thanks for joining.